I'm putting these caps on that hold down the torque tube here, and they're split. The torque tube, of course, is a tube, and then the caps are basically tubes too that are welded into this stand right here, and then they're split with bushings or tubes welded onto each side of them for a bolt to go through to hold them down. Those caps don't quite fit tight down to the lower section there. So anyway, there's shims to go in there. There is a special washer that goes underneath the head of these bolts on top there that's a small diameter, a small outside diameter washer. It is a number 4 washer. But I've just put these together now with castle nuts on the bottom, and just because I didn't have any plain nuts to go on there. When it goes together permanently, we'll put some fiber lock nuts on there. But right now I just put castle nuts on there because they're easy to spin on, and you can put them on with your fingers and run them on there. So I've got this one on and I've got it clamped down, and that one's just about right. I made 2 shims, I actually made 4 shims. There's 2 shims on there that are 60 thousandths, and 2 shims, 1 shim on each side. 1 shim on this side that's 60 thousandths, 1 on the other side that's 60 thousandths, and then 1 here that's 30 thousandths. And that seems to be just right for this back. There's no slop in that torque tube, and it still turns. I got to put grease in it yet, and it'll turn easy once I put grease. Here's the front torque tube clamp, and trying the same size of shims on the front as the back didn't work. Oh, I've got 2 60 thousand shims on this one on this side, and a 60 thousandths and a 30 thousandths on the other side, and that's fine. But I don't. That's asymmetrical. So what I'm going to do is figure out something else there. If I put the 25 thousandths and the 30 thousandths on there, that might work, or I can cut a 40 thousandths and put on there and see how that works. The torque tube is installed. Got shims here underneath the back one, and that cap down, and that one went pretty good. It took me a little while to get the shims right on it. We got 1 60 thousandths and 1 35, or well, there's 63 thousandths and 1 32 thousandths on there, and that one went real well. This front one was a little different story with a 63 thousandths and a 32 thousandths on it. It was way too tight. It tightened down tight and clamped down on it. So I made a 25 thousandths shim, 2 25 thousandths shims to go in there, 1 on each side, and that was still a little bit tight once I got it tightened down. So I made a second 32 thousandths shim and put on the other side, and then put another 63 thousandths shim on this side, and that tightened down. And this thing is still stiff, but that doesn't have anything to do with this clamp being tightened down. It has to do with the clamp being just a little bit wide compared to where these stop rings are on that, and that it drags on those, and it always has. I filed them down and cleaned them up, trued them up so they didn't drag so bad, but there's still a little bit of drag there. But there's no play up and down in this or side to side, and it just turns a little bit stiff, so hopefully that'll loosen up as it gets used a little bit. But it's not bad. And going any looser with any more shims in there just winds up putting, no matter how much, even a little bit of shims, if I just loosen these caps up, the screws up just a little bit there, then that cap is loose, and you have play in the shaft in the cap. So it's just the nature of the beast, the way it's going to be, I guess. I always used to being a lot looser on the controls, but you got to consider that other airplane was 50 years old too. So this whole torque tube slid back and forth in these stops here, and it turned back and forth easy. I didn't pay any attention to see whether it went up and down or not, but I know it slid back and forth in that torque tube. So this one doesn't have any play in it at all.